Ross Barkley. Is he finally fulfilling his promise as he leads Luton's survival bid? Now, Keone's questioning if his form has been too good to ignore for Southgate. The last of his 33 caps was back in 2019. He even questions if Barkley could be one of the best value for money signings ever after he arrived at Luton on a free if they are not relegated. He talks about seeing him finally fulfill his potential, playing at the peak of his powers with a swagger we have rarely seen since he was a teenager. I can almost imagine Martin saying these words. I love it. Ironic that Chelsea spent more than £200 million on their midfield in the summer, and Barkley could arguably be the most in-form man in the middle today when they play. In 4 years on the books at Stamford Bridge, 18.4% of passes were played forward. That's now up to 31.8% at Luton. I mean, let's be honest, we look at some of the names in England's midfield: Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Conor Gallagher, Calvin Phillips, Jordan Henderson, Trent Alexander-Arnold. I have to ask, does he have a case here for him to be considered amongst these names? We're not going crazy. We're not saying a starting 11, but perhaps in the squad. Does he really have a case here?
Sorry, Martin. You're wrong. You can't. Look, Ross Barkley's played 11 starts for Luton. Okay, 2 as sub. He's got 1 goal. Okay, so it's not like someone's had a whole season where you're going. We talked about Solanke earlier, getting 12 goals, and his performances with Bournemouth all year. Ross had a dreadful season last year at Nice. He started 9 games at Nice. Okay, 18 as sub, and scored 4 goals. Now, obviously, you have to look at his Chelsea record. And look, I'd love a redemption story. And yes, he has played well for Luton in the last 4 or 5 games. But 4 or 5 games is not going to get you in an England squad. Gareth is not going to select him. There is no way at the moment Ross is even close to being selected for England.
So how could he? You're saying no way right now. But is there a way that he could sneak in? And if that is the case, how? Well,
the only way, if he was unbelievable every game from now till March when the next squads are going to be announced. Ross isn't, he if you look at his record at Chelsea now, I think he was a sub as many as he played. Okay? I'm pretty sure he's got about a level record on games he started and games he was subbing. He just didn't happen at Chelsea. And that happens at football clubs. I've been there myself, had real bad times. Okay? But being in the England squad or having a chance on sensational form for him has been 4 or 5 games, no more. That's not going to get you in England squad. And look, you could argue Henderson is out playing in Saudi Arabia and we don't know how he's doing or whatever. There are Calvin Phillips has not played at Man City, but they've done so much more before.
Yeah, and the problem he has is that
he's 30 now.
Well, and there are a lot of midfield options that we haven't even considered. James Ward-Prowse is another player that just for midfield options doesn't even get in the England team, and yet we all are shouting that he could and should be in it.
No, Ross has done brilliantly well in recent weeks, but that's it.
Well, you mentioned Calvin Phillips. He's also in the papers today, Angelina.
Yes, Manchester City are in the paper for some sad things and some really good things. I'll get on to Calvin Phillips, but of course Pep Guardiola has warned City players to exercise caution on social media after Jack Grealish was the victim of a burglary that took place in his Cheshire home. And it's just so sad. This is happening a lot in the UK. It's something that players are having to be very conscious of. Around £1 million worth of jewellery was stolen, but luckily, his family weren't injured. They did press a panic alarm, etc. But, still very sad, and we'll have to wait and see if Grealish is in the right frame of mind to be playing. But talking about Calvin Phillips, started 2 times this season. It's not looking good, let's be honest. He's been linked with a potential move to Newcastle, but actually Juventus could be coming in for him now. They're second in Serie A. They are desperately looking for midfield options. Paul Pogba is facing a possible 4-year ban. They have another player, Nicolo Fagioli, who is suspended until the end of the season. It's looking a bit bleak for them, and they are considering Calvin Phillips. Now, Serie A has been a good home for quite a few players that we've seen in the Premier League. Tammy Abraham, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Fikayo Tomori, Chris Smalling, even Ashley Young. This could be a realistic option for Calvin Phillips. Now, is it a case of, again, talking about the England squad, is he going to be considered? Is it a case of he just has to get any move now in order to have any kind of chance, whether it's Serie A, whether it's Newcastle. People can argue that, Newcastle is still in the Premier League. It's not as much of an upheaval for him. But is it just a case of, whichever club comes knocking, he's got to listen to?
I don't know this because I've not obviously not been witness to a conversation, but I know that these conversations happened, and Gareth Southgate, in my mind, would be saying to him, if you've got any chance of playing, and you could play in the summer, you have to be playing football. And I know that Calvin Phillips has pushed the move because he has to play. He can't be fourth choice, fifth choice at Man City.
And that's why Henderson wanted to leave Liverpool, because he knew that it was getting more and more difficult for him perhaps to be a part of the England squad if he wasn't playing regularly. Now, we can argue Saudi Arabia might not have been the right choice, but that's an argument for another time. I think you're right, Angelina. He has to move on, and he has to speak to the right, whoever comes to him. He has to have those conversations about, yes, I want to move, but I need to be playing. It can't be another move where I'm just sat on the bench once again. So it's got to be a guaranteed starting position.
Juventus is a fantastic football club. If they take him, and whether it's on loan, I would imagine it's a great move.